All righty, folks. Welcome to the second episode, second day of the Daily Drew. Now, I'm going to do the mea culpa because I just didn't be one of those truth tellers. And as I say that, it's funny because had a store manager work for me for a number of years in our juice bars, and he had autism. He was Asperger's and didn't have autism, but it's on spectrum they call it. Anyway, he great guy, love him. I've talked before about how I love people working with Asperger's because they tell the truth and they're very fastidious and they show up early and they work their ass off. And Kevin was the guy, but I remember one time he was telling me, he goes, "Buddy, I can't tell a lie." Just one of the things about those folks. But anyway, so folks, we're day two of this, and today we're going to talk about whether you're starting a new business, and look, I'm gonna kind of run all over the place. I don't tell a story. I tell a tree's worth of stories. You look at a big old oak. I'm like the oak tree, man. I got branches that branch out everywhere and roots that go everywhere and everything else inside. I mean, I'm not a one-dimensional dude, man. That's why it's such a problem when I was a kid, and yeah, I'm probably still a problem today. But I want to talk a little bit about today about what it takes in your head to really go out and launch a business. And when I say launch a business, start a business. Look, I've been in business since I was a little kid. My dad put us to work. I remember the first thing that we did and got paid for, the guy that owned the property next to us, and we're in the middle of nowhere, he would have he would open it up as a park. We're on the San Antonio River. He'd open it up as a park 2 seasons a year, Easter and 4th of July. And that park would fill up, and I can't tell you. There's about probably 100 acres, and if I were to guess, there was probably, the way that thing snaked through there, there was probably, he'd get somewhere between 500 and 750 carloads of people in there staying for the weekend. And then old man Jenkins came over to my dad and he goes, "Hey Taylor," he said, "you get all those little kids running around there." He said, "I'll pay them a quarter an hour if they'll pick up all the trash." And so, when did you start as an entrepreneur? Well, let me tell you what I did. As soon as we went out there and picked up trash, and I'm only getting a quarter, and I picked up about 4 times trash my brothers did because I have way too much energy, not because I like to work, but and I figured out real quick after that. Then the next time it came around, and we knew we were going to have an event, I knew old man Jenkins would hire us, so I invited a couple of my buddies over to stay the weekend. Old Russell Reed and Kerry Newbauer came over there, and they camped out, and it was certainly Russell because he was always there, but it may have been a different friend. They came over, we camped out, we'd go in the park all the time, go to the river over there, and then I told them, "Listen, y'all can make 15 cents an hour helping us pick up all this trash over here." Well, I mean, they were all over that. We got paid 30. I was making money, man. you know, and so it's one of those things that business starts at all levels, and then to get to a big business, it's a whole different set of rules. But when you are doing it, it's the first thing you have to do. It's mindset begins. More people talk themselves out of doing something than talk themselves into it. A lot of people are risk averse. And listen, it's a benefit to all entrepreneurs. Most of the people that I assume are going to be listening to this are going to be entrepreneurs because they're wanting, what are the secrets to going out there and do it? Let me tell you something. I can tell you the secrets how to make millions of dollars. I can also tell you, and there ain't no secret, how to lose it all, but then you can make it back again. And more than anything else, I was telling Larry earlier today, because I just took him to a appointment down at the VA, and I said, "You know what, Larry?" I said, "Fact of the matter is, it isn't the smartest people on the planet that make all the money." And I've got 6 brothers. Okay, one of them's passed. 2 of my brothers that were not the smartest guys in the tribe ended up being 2 of the most successful. But it was because, for one thing, they don't get distracted like a guy like me does. They're tenacious. They put their head into it. I give them kudos, man. They work their ass off for the wealth that they have today, everything they do. I've worked my ass off, probably worked harder than they have, at least as hard. I'm not going to say I worked harder than they did, but I'm always working. And I've made millions of dollars, but I take risk and I've lost it. I've gone bust. They didn't do that. So, yeah, I'd tell you I'm smarter than they are, but does that mean I'm more successful or a better guy or than? Nah. So don't think because someone's got a real big IQ that they got a real big bank account, because I'm willing to bet that the type A personalities, the autodidacts, did you know that the 80% of the wealthiest people in the world did not graduate from college? They went out and they made it on their own. That's what starting it on your own is all about. But when you go to do that, you have to be what it takes to go and make that happen. You have to be willing to do all the things that no one else will do. And it is the get up early, and it is the, bust your butt. There are all those things that are required for you to go out there. If you're going to do it, you're going to go out and make a good business, make a living, and be successful at doing it. It's because you've done those things. So in your build, you have to do it smart. You don't want to build where you haven't thought things through. I was telling somebody the other day, I'm working with somebody in Roatan right now, and I'm going to come in there, and I love working with new entrepreneurs. And it doesn't mean all of them are going to make it. You really have to go through there. I've got where I'm pretty discerning in the entrepreneurs I work with. But anyway, I love working with new entrepreneurs, and part of it is because these folks they're anxious and excited and everything else. They don't know what they don't know, and they're kind of willing to try anything, and they'll stub their toes doing it and everything else. But some of them, do they have the mindset? My brother, and one that passed away, 2 older than me, when I started my business, American Graffiti, the first one I franchised, about 3 months after I started, or 6 months, could have been something. This is in 1990, I think. And that's when I franchised, the first one I franchised. Anyway, and so my brother's out there, and he's going, I want to do what you're doing. And he had a regular corporate job. And he hated the fact that he had to drive 45 minutes to work every day. So he said, man, if I had my own business, so he got into business what I did. He took a sabbatical for 30 days. So in other words, he was going to test drive getting in business. So when I'm getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, he used to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning because he had to be at his office 40 minutes away at 7. So he'd get up at 5. But when he had his own business, he could sleep in late, hang out with his friends, go to happy hour, do what he wanted. Folks, he wasn't a businessman. 90 days into it, he'd lost all his money. I bought his equipment and stuff from him. He said, I can't make it in this market. I was in San Antonio. He was in Dallas. So whether you're starting over, there's several things. You build, you lose, you adapt, you grow. You do it again and again and again. I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, been in business for a long time, very successful. 2024 kicked her ass, and she goes, I don't know why. It is the ebb and flow of business, folks. There's nothing really guaranteed in it. It's more that you will go out there and make your own way in a business. Now, you can get a head start. I franchise. You can do a franchise. But if you're that entrepreneur going to build a business from the ground up, like so many have, it's a whole different ballgame. So when we come back, we're going to talk about a little bit more in depth on what I did when I had to start over. See you back here in 2 minutes on the Daily Drew. Okay, so listen, when you're doing a show, and a lot of you folks that are listening to me, you ought to be doing a show. Robin, I'm talking to you. Jill, I'm talking to you. There's a bunch of you folks that need to be doing a show. Christine, you're already doing a show. We need to get you doing a show about a couple other things. But listen, when you do this, if you want to be on regular television, you do 8-minute segments. That's the way it's always been. I started in 97. And you do 8-minute segments. And if you don't do 8-minute segments, you'll never get on real radio and television. You can do a rambling, whatever you want to do for as long as you want to do it. Or you can do a little snippets and launch them here and there. But playing for success, and you'll increase your chances of being successful. And that's what this whole show's about. Is that if you will go out there and do a few things, as I said, I was telling a friend of mine, I'm mentoring in Roatan right now. And I told her, I sent her I'm not asking her to do what I ask people to do in the States and get a business plan. Let me tell you something. Business plans, they are a tool that people use to go to a bank and get money. And then they get their business plan, they throw it in a drawer once they get the money, and they never look at it again. Then they come back out and wonder why they failed. They made a plan for success. They didn't follow it. Too many people don't do that. But anyway, I was telling her, I said, listen, I want you to think about your business inside and out of it. So in doing that, I want you to go in, and I asked her 21 questions. I said, I'm not going to do a lot. So I sent it to her, and she sent it back, and she goes, oh, wow, it's 21 questions. I said, how much money you want to make? And she goes, I'll get the questions. So, I want to find out. I'm not expecting her to know a whole lot. I want to find out, is she teachable? Does she do what she needs to be doing? There is a reason that some people are successful and other people are not. But anyway, I got about 12 seconds here. This is my behind the scenes stuff. Typically, it's going to be in this episode because until I get to the point that I'm cutting and doing all that stuff, that's what it's going to be. But anyway, when I come back, we'll talk a little bit more about that. But this, folks, welcome back to the Daily Drew. I want to go into my second segment of today's episode. And when I had to start over, folks, let me tell you what it is like. And for those of you entrepreneurs that have been out there, I lost everything I had in 2008. I was raised real poor. I've talked about this before, and I, went out there on that farm. But because you were poor and then you've made money doesn't mean you ever want to be poor again. Trust me, have money a lot better. Now, how much money? And that's one of the things that this whole experience did for me is it taught me what matters the most, So as I mentioned yesterday, you don't get fat or skinny, married, divorced, rich or poor overnight, unless you win the lottery, But let's talk about the averages and the people here and what they're hoping to do. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens by degrees over a period of time. Okay, and so in business, I liken it to taking a vacation. So when you go to do your business plan, you're planning out your business. Just kind of look at it. If I was going to go in the vacation, it varies. It can vary a lot depending on what business you're getting into, what vacation you're getting into. If I'm going to go to Europe and be gone for 10 days, 2 weeks, a month, that's a whole different plan than if I'm going to go fishing to the coast, right? So the first thing you do is decide what business you're in. One of the things that all this AI is really good at, and I've been able to, it's helped me help more people. AI is real good at taking little sets of facts and then kind of expanding on them, putting them into an order. You're going to hear from a lot of people. If you think you can use AI, and I'm not going to say that there isn't a flyer out there and some poof, something happens. But fact of the matter is, getting in a business and doing a business, and one of the things I'm talking about, Elon's talking about, is that being a business of one, you better build yourself, your boo, your business of one, my boo. You better build it because that's going to be the only thing you have to trade at some point. Because, Elon thinks that robots and AI is going to be doing most of the work. And I can believe that. Dozers right now, they go out there. The people that are in the dozer, they're nothing more than a life support system for that dozer. The dozer itself is GPS, and you set it to coordinates and tell it to where to go, and it'll level that entire ground. I got buddies in Georgia in the business. You wouldn't believe how it goes. So what you need to do is you need to build the story of you, your boo, who you are, what you're doing, how you trade it. So as you're going out the person that you are, because when people invest in you, when people buy from you, my dad told me when I first got in business, very first thing I ever did, I painted his house for him. And after I finished, it took me about 2 weeks, and after I finished it, I gave him the receipts and all that, and he said, "Hey, Drew," he said, "what is this?" And I said, "Well, that's the receipts for the materials doing your house." And he said, "What about your labor?" I said, "Oh, man, you're my dad." He was my first job. I said, "You're my dad. I can't charge you." He said, "Son, let me tell you something. First lesson in business. This is my dad. And I am my old man. More than any of my brothers, man." But anyway, he said, "Son, let me tell you something." He said, "The only people who can do business with you is friends and family. So you better get used to taking their money." And he said, "If you want to give them a little discount, that's one thing." So I got to thinking about that. No kidding. And you know what I found? People that I know, people that are in business and everything else, they do what they do and they are in the business that they are in because they want to make money. And in order to get money, you have to charge for what it is you're doing. So it's gotten to where I rarely take anything for free. When I go somewhere and I'm talking to somebody, I'll let them buy, if I'm looking at their business, I'm going to consult with them. I'll let them buy me lunch or dinner or whatever. But I don't want anybody to go into their business and give me one of their widgets that they make. Take it straight or off the bottom line. Take it off. If they want to give me a discount, I'll take that all day long. Don't go give away your profits because you think I might do something for you. The smartest people that I know, they charge and they're proud of charging what they do. And the fact of the matter is, folks, when you're doing something in business, if you can't be proud of it, you can't charge enough for it. I'm not a perfectionist. I'm a 95%er. But that 95% is good for most of the rest of the world. So if you're going to go in and charge for something and do a job, do it right, do it better than well, exceed their expectations, and then make sure that you get paid, expect to get paid, you know? So don't go cutting corners, cutting throats and other stuff. So, okay, let me get back. I got about 2 more minutes. I want to talk about this. So, yeah, I lose everything. And on a handshake agreement, I walked away from that property that I've been building and invested everything we had in. And it's very humbling, you know. The only person that knew I was homeless was my wife. But what I did was I didn't cry, I didn't blame other people, I didn't kick, and I didn't get on government tit. Let me when I say I think they should cut out all welfare and all other stuff because people will take care of each other, their family and friends. It's what has happened through all of society. When the government decide to get in and take money from people, yeah, I'm off on a tangent. Take money from people, put some in their pocket, and then decide who gets the rest of it. That dog don't hunt. Not for me anyway. So I didn't take any government money. If I don't believe in it, I'm not going to participate in it. But I went out there and I learned a whole lot. I got real street smart. And I did a lot of great stuff. I worked with a marketing company and an entertainment company. We did the world premiere for Iron Man 2, and I met Stan Lee and all the folks there. We got to do that. We did some really big, really, really cool stuff. But I also spent some time living in my car and scraping for my meals and everything else. But it steeled me and it taught me stuff. And it was God putting me through some machinations to see what kind of man I was, what I was made of, you know? And so I didn't fold, I didn't falter. And I came back from that when my sons called me and they wanted to open the juice bar. We got into it with zeal. Folks, I am telling you, attitude is going to be the number one thing that is going to make or break you in business. Getting your ass out of bed and starting your life because you have to build you. Don't expect anybody else to do it. It's funny to me, and I hear about it. Look, you know, depending on who tells the story, I'm a big fan of Donald Trump. I heard about him in 1981 when he and Mayor Koch were over there doing some stuff, and so I started reading about him then. I've read his books, followed him, and you can hate him all you want to. Don't hate him for being rich. Don't hate him for taking advantage of the laws that are out there. Bankruptcy, I didn't file bankruptcy when I went bust, but I did it on principle. I just didn't want to do it. So there are things, but folks, plan it out. Your attitude, your business, how well you plan, how you align yourself, the things that you do every day towards growing and being successful in your business, that is what is going to determine. Surround yourself with people that are like-minded. Go and put yourself in the places. I used to, when I started my very first business in San Antonio, I joined the Chamber of Commerce. And I was able to kick my business off. And when I had my people franchising, had them do a lot of the same things. Folks, we're going to come right back here, and we are going to be on our final segment of the Daily Drew. And I appreciate you being here, but stay tuned. I'll be right back here in about 2 minutes. So now, again, this is 2 minute. One of the things that you do an intro and an outro, and that way the people that are editing can cut your video. Okay. And they'll put the music in and you can put in the scripted intro and outro, whatever you would do. And I'll get all those things in place. I've always had somebody did all this stuff for me in the past. And I'm kind of doing it myself because I'm going to teach you about being a business of one. I probably ought to know how to do it myself. What do you think? So anyway, it's and folks, I have to tell you, nothing for whatever reason, my entire life, I've gone and started businesses, built them up. And I'd have them running, making money. When I sold my graffiti business to a guy in San Antonio, he was 1999. Al is still running that business today. 26 years later, Al's out there making them. Probably his son's running it, I guess. Al was a few years younger than me, I think. But anyway, let me tell you, when I sold that business to Al Bosch, he went in and I taught him, and he took the time and he was learning everything that he could, But I told him, I said, Al, go get to know, join your chambers of commerces, and don't join one of them because San Antonio's got a dozen of them. Join the ones where you want to do the most business, go in and meet those people. I'm a member of C-Suite, and that organization, let me tell you, 350,000 people worldwide, and there's about probably 20% of them are active, which is the way it is with everything, gym memberships and everything else. But folks, let me tell you something. If you really want to get out there, surround yourself with people that are like you, that want to be like you. It's one of the things I love about C-Suite. It's one of the things that I do. So anyway, we're going to go back here and I'm going to do this last segment. Okay. And I appreciate y'all tuning in. All right, folks, welcome back to the Daily Drew. I'm Drew Taylor. This is segment number 3 of show number 2 of the Daily Drew. What are you going to start doing every day to change your life? What incremental steps? Did you know that if you take a bucket, a 5-gallon bucket, 5 gallons is a lot of water. You take a 5-gallon bucket, you put it under a faucet that is dripping. I don't mean running, I mean drip, drip, drip. You think, yeah, that'll last forever. No, come back next morning. Hey, come back that evening, tomorrow evening. That faucet is probably full. I mean, that bucket's probably full. Because a little forward step every day over a period of time results. When I mentioned in the last segment that my 2 brothers that were they may see this show. I'm not saying they're dumbasses, but they weren't not the most, weren't the sharpest tool in the shed. Now there's that's another thing been impressive to me. You ever notice how there's people that you saw in your life and you knew them in high school, and then later on in life you run into them, about half of them freaking rocket scientists. Sometimes it's like, what happened? Did they just mature late? Are we too early in trying to get our folks out there? But anyway, so folks, if you find yourself in a position to start over, if you're starting anew, you don't know what you don't know, get all of the help and everything that you can. If you're starting over yourself, it requires, because you lost it all. If that's what happens, when I lost that real estate project, I mean, I can point at and look at 100 different things, but fact of the matter was the world economy was going into the hole. If you remember, Bush was going out, Obama was coming in, and there was, through the years, when I tell people, oh my gosh, I lost it in 08, 9 out of 10 people go, oh my gosh, you too, man, boy, what it took me to come back from that. Do you know how many people came back after 2008? It's like the Great Depression. But let me tell you, you get real disciplined in the things that you do. You become sharper at the things you do. You take everything that you learn. You don't waste your time doing things that you used to do and you don't do anymore, right? So you go in, and in the industry that you're in, it's one of the other things. Look, you're going to hear me touting. I wrote an article on my LinkedIn. Read it. Is AI going to take over the world? All these people are afraid of AI taking over the world. Elon Musk, it's something he's talked about for a long time. He's got his Grok, his own AI. But you know what? As an old autodidact and kind of a farm boy that was watching the different cows and the chickens grow up, seeing how the animals worked with each other, watching what the people do and all that. Did you know that in any given society, the number of business owners versus the number of employees is about a 10 to 1, could be 15 to 1 between people that own businesses and people that work for a business. And the reason for that is, and we want it that way, not everyone has that entrepreneurial mindset. A lot of people want to show up for their time, exchange their time for the money they've agreed to, hopefully doing something that they kind of like to do. And then they want to come back from, go home and enjoy their family and everything else. And I saw something the other day. I'll try to find it and put a link to it here. But man, they were talking about, some guy went in there and said, all right, all you Gen Zers, let me tell you, you got your life ahead of you. Let me tell you, if you live to be 80 years old, it's X amount of years, X amount of months, weeks, days, hours. And then in your life, you're going to spend all this time, you're going to spend X amount sleeping, and that's like a third of it, 35% of it. And then you're going to spend this other time, and he's saying, you're going to be in school, you're going to all this. The time you have left for fun and doing stuff for you is not that much. So the things you do for you, both work and play, you want to do them with zeal. You know what I'm saying? And so you got to make a plan and kind of know what you're getting into. So again, I'm going to talk a little bit about AI. It's one of the greatest things that has come along in my 45, more than that. I'm 65, so let me call it my 50 years of being in business. Because I mean, I was mowing grass and cutting yards and chopping wood and you name it from the time I was little. But anyway, so let's say in my 50 years of being in business, the greatest innovation I'll never forget when the word processor came out, because I used to have to use a typewriter. And then all of a sudden you get a PC and, you can use word processor. When I launched my graffiti business, I had something called Prodigy, and it's how you got on the internet with something called dial-up. Yeah, I'm an old man. But anyway, the bottom line is the tools you have today to give you a head start to make a business plan, to do budgeting, the internet, to build stuff, to design, all those things, all of you entrepreneurs out there, you've got a head start old cowboys like us never had. Okay? And so take advantage of that head start. Take advantage of all the assets, all the things that you have that we didn't have, and then put them to work for you. Work smart and not hard. And folks, have a time. Be disciplined in the things that you're doing. Listen, especially doing this daily Drew, one of the things Sherry and I, taking care of Larry and walking him through the rest of his life, is we moved into his house and we are his caretakers. Well, he's an old military guy. I told you he's a veteran. So he goes by military time. He doesn't even like to use a 12-hour clock. It's got to be 24-hour. And so, by golly, if he says he's going to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, he's up at 6 or he's up before, right? Well, I've been that way my whole life, but I've gotten a little bit lax over the last few years. Well, now I'm more disciplined in my life. If you're launching a business, when I started every business I ever started, that's when I worked the hardest, ran the hardest, was the most disciplined, was into it, made the most. I mean, everything, you pour your heart, body, and soul into it, but you have to have work-life balance. But folks, make a good plan. Make a plan for your business and not one little part of it, okay? Let me tell you, if you're rebuilding because you lost it, don't reflect on the past other than to learn about it. Don't sit there and go, I wish I hadn't, kind of learn about it and do something different. And then most people don't lose because they fall. They lose because they never get up a second time. Folks, if you're starting in business, chances of you hitting one out of the park right out the gate are slim. You may change businesses. We talked about Charles Wrigley and the things that he did. And there's so many people that got into one business and it turned into another. Did you know, you've heard of John Deere, the tractor company? Did you know they used to make wagons? Folks, be willing, be flexible, be on the fly in your business. Be willing and able to make moves and maneuver if you need to. If the things change. Kodak, Jeffrey Hazlett, he was the CMO for Kodak. They invented the digital camera. They didn't capitalize on it. They basically went out of business. Montgomery Ward, Sears, these were the Walmarts of the day. eBay was the Amazon initially of the day. So folks, move and fly, adjust, and do the same things every day that'll make you successful. You stand a good chance of making it. I appreciate you tuning in to the Daily Drew. Thanks for riding with me today. I hope you learned a little bit of something, and if you did, please subscribe. If you got a tidbit, you got a question, ask me. More than happy to answer. But I hope you have a great weekend, and I'll see you around the campfire tomorrow. God bless.